Hello, my name is Charis and welcome to 100 Stories Deep. So today I'm going to read for you Postcard Stories by the wonderful Northern Irish writer Jan Carson. So I have chosen to read you some stories from this book today because obviously Jan is Northern Irish like myself, but then it was also published by the wonderful Emma Press in Birmingham, so I thought it would be quite nice to mix two of my favourite places. So this is Postcard Stories, stories by Jan Carson. Week 1, January 1st, 2015. Port Ballantrae Harbor, Susan Featherstone. Every New Year's at midday we meet at the harbour and cast our ghosted bodies into the sea. We are no longer 17 and over the years have progressed from last night's underwear to trunks and t-shirts and finally oil slick wetsuits, straining to contain our spreading guts. Like soldiers returning from the front, we are fewer with each passing year. This morning we are 2. And a handful of bemused children sheltering beneath their anorak hoods. Afterwards, shivering, we say, same time next year? And mean as our fathers must once have meant, all good things must come to an end, even the sea. And it's also got this lovely illustration as well, that first story. And the second story I'm going to read for you. Week 5, February 1st, 2015. Lower Nords Road, Belfast. Kelly McCockran. On the Lower Nords Road, there are gingerbread men scattered across the pavement like the corpse outlines of gunshot victims. Some are crushed, others shattered. A few remain whole and grinning whilst their comrades lie mere inches away, decapitated by the local dogs. The trail of the dead begins outside Iceland, extending with grim determination past the bus shelter to the ever-open doors of the Bethany chip shop. One loose gingerbread man might be ignored, 24 or more grate against the proper order of pavements. In these parts, it is almost impossible to tell the difference between a funeral and a protest. Week 10, March 9th, 2015. Bedford Street, Belfast. Claire Spears. After her children had grown and left home with the express intention of acquiring children all of their own, the old lady began to find the shoe a little empty. Where she'd once loved the novelty of living inside a house shaped like an old-fashioned brogue, she now felt foolish and overly aware of the neighbours staring each time she unlaced her windows. At the ripe old age of 72, she put her shoe up for sale and moved into a 2-bed semi on the edge of town. This new home smelt of dishwasher and double-glazed windows. The old woman missed the fleshy stench of damp leather and the floor which had sprung underfoot like an air-cushioned sole. When the children came to visit, dragging with them their own reluctant children, there was nowhere to put them all. The old woman complained about the nuisance and secretly relished the familiar pleasure of so many children and not knowing what to do. Week 11, March 16th, 2015. Queen's Film Theatre, Belfast. Paul Kane. We were not a dog family. We kept chickens for the eggs and from time to time a goldfish or two in a cheap plastic bowl, nor were we close to any families who did dogs. Consequently, all my assumptions about dogs were drawn from Disney movies and Enid Blyton and those individual dogs, mostly Jack Russells, I'd occasionally encounter anchored to the Belfast telegraph sign outside the VG. Therefore, when the yellow dog approached me in the park with its gums pinking like cooked ham slices, also its teeth bared, I assumed this dog's mouth to be smiling in a peculiarly doggish fashion, and extended a friendly hand, which I still miss, and in missing, regret the fact we were not a dog family. Week 20, May 16th, 2015. Mary Dixon. The bride is small at the top and wider at the bottom like a pyramid, or a toilet paper lady. Coming in or out of a room, she must turn sideways to accommodate her train. The bride is named Catherine, but looking at her, it's hard not to assume she had been called Cathy in youth and Cat since the age of 17. She is at least 37 now, but her dress is 10 years younger. There's a stain like the red hand of Ulster simmering across the back side of this dress, as if the bride had sat herself down in something bloody, as if she has thrown red wine over her own shoulder in some strange parody of that lucky salt ritual, as if someone with no sense, her father perhaps, had placed his hand on her and given her a good hefty shove into the next chapter. Week 21, May 27th, 2015. Belmont Road, East Belfast. Eleanor Kyle. The Wilsons could not afford more than one baby, nor did they believe in only children. "It's cruel," said Mrs. Wilson, "bringing a child up without another child for company." When their baby was old enough to sit up, they placed him in a small room, mirrored on all four sides. "Look at all the mirror babies," they said, "so many friends to play with." They took great comfort in the way their baby talked to his reflection, as if the children in the mirror were real. Later, when he was 16 or 17 and the mirror room had been demolished to make way for a home office, the boy had vague memories of siblings. He presumed them all but himself dead, and did not ask. But there was a sadness inside him like a two-sided mirror. Week 24, June 13th, 2015. Botanic Avenue, Belfast. Glory Grey. What's the difference? She thought, and went to the pawn shop where the dishwasher tablets were cheaper. She kept her mother's change and felt no guilt. Though the brand was identical to the dishwasher tablets they normally used, the writing on the packet was in a foreign language, Polish or Romanian, the words recognisably Eastern. She stored the box under the sink with the other cleaning products and hoped her mother would not notice. Her mother did not notice. The dishes were no more nor less clean than usual, but there were tiny foreign fingerprints on the cutlery and a strange taste of the cups, like a sadness in a foreign film. This persisted even after a second and third rinse. She could not shift her thirst with these cups, no matter how much she drank. Week 29, July 21st, 2015. Linnenhall Street, Belfast. Becca D. I am making a robot of myself. It will look exactly like me, only silver. People I know will see the robot of me in Tesco or on the bus and will be struck by its resemblance to me, and also its shininess. They will see themselves reflected in its face or on the smooth slope of its back. They will automatically stop to check their hair, tucking wayward strands behind their ears, as if the robot of me is a mere mirror, only there for their convenience. The robot of me will not be funny, or write stories, or be good at conversation with wine. I will be particularly careful to ensure the robot is a dull dinner party guest, for fear that my friends might begin to prefer its company over mine. The robot of myself will exist to do things I do not enjoy doing, such as tax returns and going to funerals. I will not bother to give the robot of myself a name. Week 30, July 22nd, 2015, Tannic Avenue, Belfast. Sophie Collins. When it came to the final number and everyone in the audience was asked to sing along with Somewhere Over the Rainbow, two people did not know the words. Or perhaps it would be more accurate to say two people only knew the phrase Somewhere Over the Rainbow and the accompanying melody. During the other sections of the verse and chorus, these two people opened and closed their mouths silently in time to the piano. From a distance, it was impossible to tell that they were not producing sound, though there was an almost unperceivable time-lapse between their jaws and the jaws of those audience members sitting to their left and right. Both these people had rather disappointing childhoods, and this is why they did not know the words to Somewhere Over the Rainbow. The memory of their disappointing childhoods came back to them as they lip-synced, and both, without consulting one another, determined not to cry, and also to Google the lyrics as soon as they got home. Week 32, August 11th, 2015, Dublin Road, Belfast. Claire Shaw. There are feral children living inside the Dublin Road cinema. 3 of them. They do not have names as such, and, having learnt all their language from the movies, have come to call themselves Disney and Pixar and Batman, Batman being the smallest of the 3 and the only male. They cannot remember how they arrived there at the Dublin Road cinema, but they do not want to leave. They scuttle from screen to screen when the lights are down, avoiding the ushers and eating popcorn in handfuls straight from the floor. During the day, they sleep, curled like pretzels beneath the folding seats. Their skin is like milk or paper from never having been outside. When they see themselves in the bathroom mirrors, wild-haired and white, they touch their faces and touch the faces of their siblings. They do not pass right through each other. It is a relief to know they are not yet ghosts. Ghosts are things which end badly in every movie they have ever seen. Week 37, September 15th, 2015, Donegal Square, Belfast. Lynn McMurdy. When I came back from the shops, you were in the garden listening to the trees. When I say you were listening to the trees, I mean you were actually listening to them, resting an upturned whiskey glass against the sycamore's trunk like an old school detective eavesdropping through the bedroom wall. What are you doing? I asked. Listening to the trees, you said. What are the trees saying? I asked. You shrugged your shoulders sharply and said, how should I know? I don't speak tree. What's the point in listening to them then? It makes the trees feel good to know there's someone prepared to listen, you said, even if that person doesn't understand them. I didn't have the words to say, I know how those trees feel, which wasn't quite true, because it had been months since you last listened to me, even through a glass. Week 44, October 23rd, 2015. Belmont Tower, East Belfast. Kate, Brian. Dear C.S. Lewis, you will be disappointed to hear that while I climbed into my wardrobe and went feeling around for the portal to another world, I did not encounter Narnia. Only the back of my wardrobe, which is made of plywood, and some coat hangers jangling together like biscuit tin lids. Do you suppose my wardrobe is to fault, C.S.? It's only a flat pack one from IKEA. It's not even that big. Or was it the absence of fur coats which made all the difference? I keep summer dresses in my wardrobe, cardigan skirts, and the kind of blouses which can't be folded for fear of wrinkling. These items, when pressed upon, do not part with the same soft animal shrug. They do not smell like old ladies at the theatre. But no one owns a fur coat for real these days, Mr. Lewis. Everyone considers such articles cruel, even the people who actually afford to buy them. Besides, C.S. Lewis, we both know it wasn't the wardrobe or the clothes which kept me out of Narnia. I simply did not believe enough. I will now read my last short story by Jan, and it is week 45, November 3rd, 2015. Victoria Square, Belfast. Susan Pickin. If your drink doesn't make you happy, we'll make you another, I read aloud, pointing to the sign above the barista's head. It's been there, right behind him, with the toaster machine and the coffee syrups, for so long now that he's forgotten all about it. Occasionally someone refers to the sign when their latte is not as hot as they'd like it to be, or their cappuccino is burnt, but most people are too polite to complain. Not me. I finished my coffee, and it didn't make me happy, I tell the barista. He asks if it was too hot, too cold, too weak, too strong. I say, no, there's nothing wrong with this coffee. It just didn't make me happy. I am still as unhappy as I was before drinking this coffee. Then I begin to cry. And because the barista does not know what to do, he gets the manager. The manager offers me another coffee and a muffin, with the implication of a free panini if I'll just stop crying over the pastry counter. I take their muffin and their free coffee, but neither item makes me happy. There are only so many free coffees a person can drink before admitting that a hot beverage cannot cure loneliness or grief or general melancholy. So that was Postcard Stories by Jan Carson, published by the Emma Press in Birmingham, beautifully illustrated by Benjamin Phillips. An activity that I would recommend for you guys to do is to write your own postcard story. So Jan, every day in 2015, wrote a story on a postcard and then sent it to her friends. So this is just some of the highlights from the collection, some of my favourites as well, but there are so many more brilliant stories within this book, so I would seriously recommend buying yourself a copy, and you can. There's a link below in this video, and please also subscribe to 100 Stories Deep, especially if you enjoyed this one, as we have 100 more that I'm sure you will absolutely love. So thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.